And throughout my research, I had to find a drone I wanted. So I decided to make a drone. This is the bottom of the chassis, which also acts as a heat distributor on the bottom. This is the arm of the chassis and the motor. These are the 4 speed controllers that I needed to use to allow all the motors to work properly. And what they do is they control the speeds of the motors, make sure they all spin at certain RPMs, so that they could all so that the drone can adequately fly. So if you want to go forward or just straight up, these speed controllers make sure that they all spin at the same time, so that it rises up. This is my NASA module, and this is the main controller of the drone, and it's what you connect everything to, so that everything can talk to each other. This is my receiver, and this is what allows the drone to receive the signal from your controller. This is the PMU, and this is where the current comes in, and then it gets toned down so that it doesn't zap fry all of my components. Also, the GPS goes in here. This is the LED module, and what this does, aside from having a fancy LED, is it goes ahead and you can plug in your micro USB so you can program your drone. This is the GPS and the gyroscope, and this pretty much allows the drone to know how stable it is and whether it needs to spin one faster to level out or not. It also lets the drone know where it is. Since my drone would have the capacity of autopilot, it does need to know where it is. And this is the battery I used. Of course, you need power to power up the drone. So I started with soldering. I didn't know how to solder at the beginning, so I kind of just went free with it. And that's one thing I definitely learned about myself. I don't like to follow directions. I always play first, ask questions later. So of course, that's why my soldering looks kind of iffy. But it works. Next, I put the NASA module in, and I put in all of the wires into their correct sockets. After that, I went ahead and hooked up the receiver, and of course, it's not very clear from my angle, but hopefully you can see it. You can see all of these words go ahead and line up with all the letters on this side, and you just have to make sure they go into the right places. Next, I went ahead and put the PMU in and plugged it in. After that, I just went ahead and put in the LED so that the drone can be programmed. And then, of course, the GPS. And the GPS, as I said before, just goes into the PMU. And then, of course, it was time to hook up the motors. From the speed controllers, there's these wires. And as you can see on the NASA module, there's this little play button that goes forward, and that shows the forward direction of your drone, of my drone. And then M1, M2, M3, all that stands for motor 1 through 6, and then these two are just in case you have any extra wires that you need to plug in. So I went ahead and plugged them into their proper place, and the front right is motor 1, and then counterclockwise I had to go. And it took a lot of playing with it, since they were very vague instructions. I had to either Google it, or I had to ask my mentor. Then of course I went ahead and put on the motors and the arms, so it started to look more like a drone itself. And there it is. It's beautiful. I hooked it up to the computer. For some reason, the first time the drivers were perfectly fine and it worked. I was able to program it perfectly fine without any interruptions. There it is, my magnum opus. And it flew for an astounding 5 minutes. Cue the culprit. One tasty and delicious Subway sandwich. Now, I know what you're asking. How could a sandwich have possibly destroyed your drone? Well, let me tell you a story. I had a sandwich at my house, and after 5 minutes of flying my drone, I'm like, all right, this is good. Time to be Sergio. Let's do something stupid. And so I went ahead and attached my Subway sandwich to my drone and tried to make it deliver my Subway sandwich to me. And it was going pretty well until the sandwich fell off and I couldn't throttle down in time, so the drone flew up, hit the ceiling, and it broke. My drone broke. Horrifying. And once my drone broke, I realized it was more of those moments where like you knew it was a bad idea, but you did it anyways. And so of course, like a good kid, I went ahead and covered up all the evidence, and I quickly got some money out of my own bank account and bought a new chassis, and there it is. My new drone, only one problem. It doesn't work because my module got hit really hard and I have to buy a new module. So those are the definite downsides, and the bigger hardships I found throughout this is that there were no instructions. Building the drone was a very hands-on thing that you had to do yourself, and you had to either read this little bit of directions or go on the internet to find stuff. I definitely found out a lot about myself, as of which I like to play first and then read the manuals if there is any, which I know now that maybe I should read a little first.